Your father and fiancé were killed by Kandarian demons? But that's only 2 men, isn't it? I mean, there's no way that all the men in your life could have been killed by Kandarian demons.
Oh, no! It was high school.
High school.
Senior prom.
Oh, yeah.
Go with my daddy, how we prom. A perfect night. Like I always dream.
A little girl's dream.
But when Stairway to Heaven began, Hal was killed by a Kandarian demon.
And now our theater critic Brandon K. Thorp reviews Evil Dead, the musical.
Despite the repeated and increasingly exasperated attempts of a lifelong best friend, I cannot quite convince myself that Evil Dead is a fun film. It frankly sets my teeth on edge, though I can see how others might feel differently. In fact, it may be the very quality that grates on my nerves so that also drives its fanboys and fangirls crazy. To wit, this B-grade Uber cheese fest, in addition to being a showcase for spectacularly bad but fun special effects, and for Bruce Campbell's crazy-eyed machismo, is also a minor masterpiece of ambiguity. At all times, even in the film's most ridiculous moments, it is impossible to believe that director Sam Raimi isn't on some level attempting to make a serious horror film, just as Evil Dead's most serious moments can't quite convince me that Evil Dead isn't mostly a joke. It straddles the fence, it bleeds, but it never flinches and never winks. Now, listen, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you might as well stop listening. If you have yet to experience the weird charms of Evil Dead, there is no way you're going to get anything but frustration from the Promethean Theater's technically inspired and spiritually vacuous production of Evil Dead, the musical. But if you need a plot synopsis anyway, here's a short one. 5 college students ventured deep into the mountains of the American South to an abandoned cabin for a week of booze and sex. Once there, they discovered the Book of the Dead. This isn't as big a problem as you'd imagine. The real problem is that the last man to possess the book, a scholar of ancient languages, recorded his recitations of the book's mystical formula into a tape recorder, which the college students play back, thereby filling the scenic Tennessee woods with Kandarian demons. The students are possessed by the demons, one by one, and die excruciating deaths. After 90 or so minutes, Bruce Campbell is the last man standing. He slays the demons by tossing the Book of the Dead into the fireplace. Now, that's not exactly how things go in the musical, which repeatedly conflates Evil Dead with its 2 not-quite sequels, Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. Those familiar with such things will understand when I explain that the musical features both a boomstick and a very noisy, very dangerous prosthesis. And if you're not familiar with such things, I repeat, stop listening. You will not like the show at which theatergoers in Promethean's first 2 rows are 100% guaranteed to leave the theater covered, that is, covered, in fake blood. Anyway, this is to the good if you ask me, mostly because Matthew Chaviser, the Bruce Campbell stand-in, has such fabulous physical instincts. Whether menacing a Kandarian demon with a shotgun or getting beaten bloody by his own demon-possessed hand, his every twitch is a pose. Eyebrows akimbo, chest bulging, declaiming his lines on a baritone of Bunyan-esque American bigness, Chaviser isn't exactly mimicking Bruce Campbell's iconic turn, but he is jazzing on it, and he's awesome. Also awesome, the tricked-out craziness of Promethean's set. Check out the stuffed animals and the game heads mounted all over the cabin walls. It may not be readily apparent, but they move. So, it seems, does everything else. When the demons start throwing their toys around, there's scarcely an object in sight that doesn't spin, flop, wag, bark, mumble frightening things, or scream. Meanwhile, geysers of blood explode from the necks, arms, and, in one cringe-making scene, the ankles of the battered thesps. The battered thesps themselves are more of a mixed bag. First, the highlights. Troy Davidson is a good actor, but he's a glorious overactor, and I hope he never has a role in which he doesn't get to recapitulate at least part of a Michael Jackson dance routine. This is his second such role in as many years. Noah Levine is splendid, shucking his way through the haunted woods as a wizened old hillbilly, and you can almost smell the soiled Sour Mash cloud through which he sings the show's funniest ditty. David Deerstein, as a pipsqueak assistant who grows cojones only when possessed by a Kandarian demon, is a creature of nigh-perfect comic timing. Expect big things. And as a buxom, no-crap-taking professor type who Deerstein is supposed to assist, and apparently wed, Lindsay Forgey is pure burnished brass. But the rest of the cast feels curiously underpowered, either vocally or dramatically. The latter I'll chalk up to a couple of gals having a bad night, but the absence of vocal heft from Jamie Maddox, and sometimes even from Chaviser and Davidson, is troubling. Sometimes their voices disappear beneath the music, which itself isn't nearly loud enough. It is a rule in most theater, and especially in slapstick, that an audience ought to forget it's watching paid actors pretending to do things. But when the gentle throat clearing of a lady in the back row remains audible against the pre-recorded instrumentals of a splattercore musical comedy, suspension of disbelief becomes difficult, at least. By the way, this is very much an out-there, in-your-face comedy. Unlike the film that inspired it, Evil Dead the Musical has little interest in ambiguity. The music is broadly composed genre riffage, the gags are mostly physical and leave you wondering about nothing much. I'm not sure if that makes the show a fitting tribute to Sam Raimi's old warhorse, which was itself almost a parody, but it does make it more unambiguously entertaining, if you like that kind of thing. Evil Dead the Musical plays at the Promethean Theater through September 12th. That's the Promethean Theater at Nova Southeastern University, 3301 College Avenue, Davie. You can reach them at prometheantheater.org, that's theater with a TRE at the end of it, .org, or by calling 866-811-4111. For South Florida Arts Beat, I'm Brandon K. Thorp.
Brandon K. Thorp is the theater critic for the Broward Palm Beach New Times and the Miami New Times. You can contact him at brandon@randy.org. Please stay with us. South Florida Arts Beat will continue in just a moment.
We're